What is the most cliched old white dude, dad who still wants to be cool genre of all time? It's prog rock. Now, I'm sure you've heard this term before: progressive music, progressive metal, prog rock, progressive electronic. What is it? What is prog? Well, I'm here to tell you about why prog rocks, why it's still amazing, it's still powerful today. And I just want to provide a bit of history, just talk about a couple albums I love, and hopefully encourage you to listen to prog because it's one of the most rewarding genres to get into as a musician. So, what is prog? I'm sure you've seen this album before: Dark Side of the Moon. Now, Pink Floyd are notoriously prog since their early days jamming in basements in the 60s. Pink Floyd have been probably the most popular progressive rock band ever. But there's a lot of other bands you might not have thought are prog as well. The Beatles, for instance, probably along the tails of King Crimson, probably were the start of prog. So I'm talking Abbey Road here. Now, the first half of Abbey Road, apart from, well, to be fair, there's some songs like Maxwell Silverhammer and I Want You, She's So Heavy. Absolutely, they are prog as well. But the second half is where it goes really proggy, but in a Beatles way. And all the songs kind of melt into one another. There's no kind of stopping. And that's what progressive kind of means. It's kind of based on classical, how you'd have a symphony which lasts 20 to 40 minutes or something like that. You know, you have these brief respites, but then the music comes back up, and it's usually centered on a theme. So you might have been listening to prog without even realizing it. And some other prog albums, this is what I'd consider probably the best prog rock album ever. This is my favorite: Supertramp, Crime of the Century, because it has pop influence, it has rock influence, and the theme throughout and just the general sound of the album is one of the greatest sounding albums of all time as a producer. It's phenomenal. If you haven't listened to this the whole way through, just listen to School and Bloody Well Right, and I'd be surprised if you don't finish it after those two songs. I love prog. Okay, so some other prog is Queen. Queen is absolutely prog. Queen 2 and this album, especially Bohemian Rhapsody, the greatest song ever, are prog. And think about that. Probably the two greatest songs of all time, in my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree, are Bohemian Rhapsody and Stairway to Heaven. They're both prog, and people love them. They love how it changes, how it's so dynamic. It's not just a song and it's over. It's a journey. And this is why I adore prog. So we're getting through the kind of obvious choices here, but I want to just kind of rifle through them really quick and give you some maybe weird ones to go off and just have a dive in musically, just listening wise, and just enjoy it. There's a wealth of albums, and we'll get to see a lot of them today. So, an obvious one that I hadn't listened to until literally last year is I, Robot by Alan Parsons Project, and the album before that is actually a collection of Edgar Allan Poe poems converted into songs, and it's an awesome album. It's just very fun. This is the best sounding album I've ever heard. It's pristine, it's clear, it's the highs are silky, the lows are just like you feel them in your chest. And some of the songs on here are phenomenal, just phenomenally written all around, orchestrated, everything. This was actually Alan Parsons, the main guy of this, was actually the producer on Dark Side of the Moon, and you can really hear it on this. It's quite like choral. They use a lot of what do you even call that? like vocal groups, a choir, and they mix it in with kind of rock. It's symphonic, you know, it has operatic elements. Very cool. This is a fucking amazing album. Do yourself a favor, listen to it. Good headphones or a great set of studio monitors. So, another album you might not have thought of, and another hot take is that this is probably David Bowie's best album. I love Spiders from Mars and all that, but Low's just got something. It's so unique. You'll never hear another album like this. You know, and this is like Brian Eno, but then mixed in with Bowie, and it's like, wow, you know what I mean? The second half of Low is basically just, it just goes into this like musical landscape, and it's very icy and futuristic. It's just awesome. Again, do yourself a favor. The first side is very poppy, so it might be a good introduction. So try it out. Now, probably my favorite weird prog rock album is Klaatu. If you're gonna take anything from this video, please just listen to this. It's a band called Klaatu, right? Klaatu. The album's called 347 EST. And basically, these guys are like a Canadian band who were really under the radar. And when they released this, people started to think they were the Beatles. And unfortunately, in the end, the promoters of this group basically took it and ran. They were like, all right, we're not going to put any of the names on it. We're going to pretend like it's the Beatles. And I feel like this kind of backfired on Klaatu and just kind of stunted their future music development. Their next album, Hope, is incredible as well. And most people will listen to this because there's a great polyphonic video about it. But the next album, called Hope, is well worth a listen as well. Some great songs on there. So, another amazing album. But the one thing I want you to take from this one, Genesis's Foxtrot, is listen to the last song, Supper's Ready, because that's up there for me with the best songs of all time as well. It's 20 minutes, but the time will fly. There's an amazing YouTube video about this song as well, which is like an animated version of it. So you have like an animated video to go along with the music. And I think it's a great introduction to bigger prog rock songs. And I would consider Supper's Ready probably the best prog rock song in terms of the progginess of it, because you can't really lump in Bohemian Rhapsody with that. They're just on their own level. But yeah, Supper's Ready, and watch that YouTube video. Just Supper's Ready Illustrated, I think it's called. So, I'd consider this the first real prog rock album, and look at that album cover. I mean, throughout all of this, the album covers have just been amazing, right? So I think that's the thing with prog rock as well, is that it has a theme, and this like tells 1,000 words, just this image. And then you listen to the music inside and you're like, wow. The thing with prog rock is you can actually just buy the album on the strength of its cover. Because it's like, how much was this? Like £15? And it's like, that's a piece of art, man. And because it's this size, you know, genuinely, it's a piece of art. That's why I love records as well. It's an expensive hobby, and it really has drilled a hole in my pocket on many occasions, but I'd say it's worth it in the long run. So I'm skipping through a couple here. Next, I want to show you, so we're getting deeper into proggy territory now, okay? This is Tubular Bells, and you will have heard at least two parts of this. I would encourage you to listen to the start of Tubular Bells, and then you'll be like, whoa, I have no clue it was from this. But basically, this is an album which is just so impressive, because on the back here, I'm not sure if you can see this, right? But basically, it just says Mike Oldfield plays, and then it goes through about 20 instruments. So it's this one guy. This album is just all instrumental music, but this guy, Mike Oldfield, plays practically every single instrument on it, and he was like 19 at the time, which is very humbling to say the least. So this guy was able to play grand piano, glockenspiel, organ, bass guitar, guitar, speed guitar, mandolin, acoustic, a flageolet, whatever that is, honky tonk, the tubular bells themselves. So concert timpani, bagpipes, and plenty more. I just think that's so impressive that a man of 18 can play all of those instruments to such a high level. And the music itself is incredible. So I'd encourage you to listen to Tubular Bells as well. That's a very out there one because there's no lyrics, there's no vocals. It's all instrumental music. So a band I saw recently actually, and I was surrounded by all the old dads, and they're all just kind of looking at me like, is this guy at the right concert? Like, like who the fuck is this guy? But such a cool. Look at that, man. So Caravan in the Land of the Grey and Pink, great album. There's a 20-minute song on this as well, which covers the second half of the album. But I'd encourage you to listen to the first side, especially Golf Girl. Just a really nice, whimsical little tune. It's great. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to introduce you to... you'll probably have heard this, right? So Radiohead. I think everything after the Bends has really been pretty proggy as well. So think the Pyramid Song. Think 15 Body Snatchers. You know what I mean? All the stuff off of OK Computer. And then Kid A's really a progressive electronic album. And that blew open the doors. And it's a lot of things that, like, this is the prog that we're listening to as the younger generation, is stuff like Radiohead, stuff like progressive metal. This is Tool. I'm trying to get the thing off it because it's a nice little album cover. So Tool, Lateralis, incredible album. And I've recently gotten into prog metal. I'm not really a metal guy. I don't really like Metallica and stuff like that. I think they're great, but it's not really music for me. And here we have Porcupine Tree. That's another amazing introduction to progressive metal. More chill. And this album is their magnum opus, Fear of a Blank Planet. The song Anesthetize is just fucking phenomenal, mate. Like, that's probably one of the best songs I've ever heard, Anesthetize, off of Fear of a Blank Planet. The whole thing's like a concept album about this young kid just kind of navigating through life and just struggling. It's like video games, pornography, addiction, struggling at school. You know, he ends up being like a school shooter kind of guy. So very interesting album. Great concept as well. So another incredible album. And look at this, right? So you wouldn't say, oh, what an album cover. But this is what you don't see on Spotify. And I know Polyphonic did a video about this as well, but it's beautiful, man. It's a shame that we've lost the kind of art of the album cover. You know, you never really see that anymore. But yeah, yes, Close to the Edge. Just listen to the title track. It's amazing. I get up, I get down. It's a beautiful song. It goes so many different places. It really takes you on a journey. So I'd very highly recommend this album. It's probably the one I've listened to the most out of everything on this list. So, highly encourage you, get into Zappa. Zappa's like, he's like the Bach of our generation, or like the Mozart or whatever. I don't listen to any of them guys, but if you want to get into Zappa, I'd try this first. This is more accessible. This is Overnight Sensation. You've got stuff like Hot Rats, Chic Your Booty, Apostrophe, and a bunch of other One Size Fits All. You know, even the first album, Freak Out, is a great introduction, but I would start with Overnight Sensation. Just a great album. Great album. Introduces you slowly into Zappa rather than kind of, oh shit. Because Zappa will be like, what the fuck even is this? at times you're like, you know, it's so far left field that you're like, is this even a song now? Like, but Zappa's great, man. He's so funny. You know, it's when humor comes into music, which is great. I think there's definitely a place for humor in music, and not many artists utilize that. Just another amazing album cover. I love Yes. They're probably my favorite band. Um, just look at that, man. Like, there's not much on the inside, but just great album art. This is like part of it for me. It really means something to me. The album art as well. I'm like, when I see this, like, it just fills me with good emotion. And the same goes for pretty much all of these album covers, but you don't get that when you're looking at it on your phone. You know, I've held this, I've held it, I've kept it in good condition. You know, I take care when I take it out the sleeve and everything. It means so much to me, this physical bit of music. It's real, it's not digital. I just love that, mate. So, now time for some weird ones. Some maybe you might have heard of this band. This is Godspeed, You Black Emperor. Um, this is like art rock, I guess. Now, I'd still consider this progressive, but now we're kind of moving into noisier territories. So this is a good start. Bands like Sigur Rós is great as well. They're very similar to this. Sigur Rós is nothing like this band, but it's kind of like the natural progression of prog, and it's more modern. Sigur Rós would be a great introduction to this, actually, but I don't have the album, so I can't show you it. But great album. I need to listen to this again, actually. I've not listened to it in a while. Now, there's a rich history in other countries as well with progressive rock music. Take PFM. This is a phenomenal album. Fair enough, the lyrics are in Italian. There's another album I want to mention as well. I'll mention after this, but PFM, they've got some killer music on here, you know, and it introduces that operatic kind of more Italian heritage, like Vivaldi and, you know, those composers rather than our more German kind of era, I guess. And obviously, we had a rich history in Britain of classical music as well. But yeah, so this is more of an Italian twist, and there's a great band called. There's a whole subsection. I pulled out one of the records on a previous video. Eloy, Krautrock, German progressive rock. It's awesome. That's very Pink Floydy Krautrock, more melodic. But the band I wanted to mention was Harmonium. I've been listening to this album. I don't have it right now. I've got it on CD, but I forgot to bring it up. What a great album. I'm trying to learn French right now, so it's a great introduction to that. It's more easily digestible than modern French. And the Canadians just, you know, it's a Canadian French rock album. But Harmonium, I just wanted to mention that name. Les Cinq Saisons de something. Here's me struggling with French, so there you go. Great album. But I think that's like a twist on the 4 seasons of Vivaldi, and then it's like the 5 seasons. Great album though. Another weird one, Gong. So Gong are phenomenal. Like Alan Holdsworth comes into the band later on, some really good proggy stuff. But there's some really weird shit on this album. I love it. It's more in the vein of Zappa, I'd say, than the other stuff. So give it a shot if you haven't already. The final album I want to show is this Japanese album, Masayoshi Takanaka, I think his name is. And this is like a kid's book, but in the form of an album. And what a great idea. Why has that not been done before? Like, you know, Alice in Wonderland or something. Make a prog album out of that. Use nonsense to your advantage. It's a cool idea. But great album, great cover. Inside and out. And you get this on the inside. So I've got this like OBI on it as well, so I don't want to remove that. Yeah, so there's prog for you. This is just a passion video because I didn't really have a topic for today. But yeah, enjoy it. There's many different avenues of progressive rock, and it's just something to get started on. You know, you could take one of these albums and you'd be lost down a rabbit hole in a completely different direction. But if one of these took your fancy and you liked the album art, or you just like my description of it, I highly encourage you, just go for it, listen to it. Listening to new music is one of the greatest ways to be more creative. It's how you fill your head with ideas, you know? You can't just have a blank slate. You need to feed your brain input and then you can output. You know what I mean? But this is like musical superfood because they're all genius musicians, and as much as people don't listen to like classical music and stuff anymore, like there's a reason it was so popular for so long, and there's a reason it's still used in films and everything right now, and film scores, and people love John Williams and stuff like that. So musical superfood, mate. Try it out. So I hope you enjoy some of these albums if you choose to listen to them. And all the best. You know what I mean? Take care.